So first of all, today's webinar will focus on strategies for circular business models. We're hoping that this webinar will start some train of thoughts for you guys, and maybe even in the near future, have you guys use one of the models, or at least maybe develop your own to use for a project of your own. But before we really dive into it, I would like to introduce myself and my co-host, Anna Lynn. So first of all, my name is John, and I will be your host. Anna, would you introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, I will co-host John, and I'm also from DANSIC, and I'm in the event team. And I am looking forward to hear the two webinars that we're going to hear this evening.
Awesome. So, all right, let's start with an introduction. What is DANSIC? So, DANSIC stands for Danish Social Innovation Club. We are a non-profit organization that's run by volunteers, both from Danish and international students, as well as recent graduates. What we want to do with DANSIC is to contribute to society, environmentally, ethically, and socially. And we want to inspire different actors in society to use social innovation and interdisciplinary work to solve social ethical challenges. And what makes DANSIC? DANSIC is made of 26 members that you guys can see right here. And if you guys are playing Find Waldo with my face, it's on the upper left corner. So for this webinar, we will go in depth with different types of business models that all support the development of circular economy. And we'll bring some concrete examples on the results from such models. If you have any questions, again, throughout the presentation, drop them in the Q&A section below. To help us better understand today's theme, we are so lucky to have experts with us. We have Markus Hatting from Tekstilrevolutionen and Jocelyne Landry Tsonang from the African Circular Economy Network. We're still having difficulties with Jocelyne joining, but I hope she'll make it. Anyhow, I was thinking if you guys wanted to do a quick introduction, tell something about yourself, maybe something that you're proud of, that you've done in the past, and then we can get right on to your presentations. Markus, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hello, Markus. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. So, a small introduction from you.
Yes, so yeah, I am Markus, and I am the co-founder and researcher in Tekstilrevolutionen, the Textile Revolution. And I'll introduce that a little bit more in my presentation, so I won't say a lot. I think recently I'm very proud of starting my climbing again. So I have been on-siting some really tough routes in my climbing gym recently, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, well, good luck with that, I guess.
Thanks.
Hey, Jocelyne. We were just about to ask you about yourself. I mean, give an introduction about yourself.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm Jocelyne Landry Tsonang from Cameroon. I'm based in Cameroon and I am a Cameroonian. My background is in natural resource management and environmental management. So I have been a consultant in that field for about 7 years now. I am also a member of the executive team of the African Circular Economy Network. And I also own a small eco-friendly housing company called D&D Smart Construction. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
No, the pleasure is ours. Thank you so much for being here. So the agenda today is essentially that we will start with a presentation from Markus Hatting, and then we'll move on to a presentation with Jocelyne. So Markus, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Yes. All right. So yes, I am Markus, and I want to talk about circular business models. I am from the Textile Revolution. We are a independent think tank, and we're working with the most ambitious brands to push the textile industry towards a positive impact. What we're doing is that we are focusing a lot on data. We are very data driven because there's so many myths in the textile industry. So we feel it's really important to have a strong foundation in data. Also, we are working holistically because we see many times that people are trying to solve problems, for example, in the climate field, and then they're pushing it towards the environmental field or towards the social field. So it's really important to have a holistic approach, to not just push problems around, but actually to solve problems. So that's basically us. And yes, I'm talking about circular business models, but I'm talking about it from a textile industry perspective. And I'm pretty sure that many of these thoughts will be applicable in many other fields. But since my topic of expertise is textiles, the perspective would be from there. But the intention of my presentation today is to give some inspiration on impactful business models and their potential to create a lower impact or maybe a positive impact on the industry and on the planet and people around. This will be mostly focused on the environmental and climate aspects rather than the social ones. So just a quick overview on what I'm going to talk about. First, why is this important? I'm going to give an overview on the problems that need to be solved in the textile industry. Then I'm going to try to convince you that the circular business models or elements from this will be a solution. I'm going to explain different elements in different circular business models that can be taken and used in different contexts. Then I'm going to talk about the barriers. We call it the barriers, and the rest of society was like the context. What is it that other actors can do to try to force these business models and push them forward? So that's the agenda. Just if you don't know a lot about the textile industry, there are a lot of issues ready to be solved. Some of them are environmental, as you can see here. We have problems with sludge and wastewater just going directly out to ecosystems, damaging the ecosystems, and also kind of collapsing the ecosystem services that people need and people's livelihoods depend on. So we have some trouble there. There are also some trouble on the climate front. So big troubles in environmental themes and in climatic themes, mostly from the production of the actual products, but also a lot later in the recycling or the landfill processes there. There are also a lot of social issues. Here we have kids working in cotton fields. We have child labor. Even though we have on a general scale, on a global scale, it's going down with forced labor and with child labor. We still have a lot of that in the textile industry. So both child labor, forced labor, and horrible working conditions can be found in the textile industry. As well, more in the richer countries, we have problems with greenwashing. We're talking a lot about that these days. Recycled is one, or sustainable, green, or responsible. They're different names you can put on your product to hopefully sell more without actually having a better impact on the planet. But hopefully by like selling more products to your customers, and that's kind of also the essence of the problem with the clothing sale. You can see here, this is from Ellen MacArthur, so from 2000 to 2015, and during those 15 years, clothing sales doubled, and clothing utilization went down. So it means that we are buying a lot more clothes and we are using it less. So we get into this cycle where we buy clothes that we use very few times, and maybe we buy just for one party on Friday or Saturday, and then we don't really care about it anymore. or maybe it's not in a good enough quality, so we don't want to use it anymore because it's torn or it's loose or whatever it could be, and it just goes directly to the bottom of the drawer or the bottom of the closet. So big problems with overconsumption as well. And this segues finally into this production consumption afterlife model. This is the linear model, the standard model for linear production. We produce something that has a lot of impact. We're maybe polluting a lot, or having environmental damaging processes. We consume it, and then we throw it away. And in the production phase right now, we have a lot of focus on the fibers, choosing some better fibers, maybe organic materials, so on. But a lot of focus from the industry lies in this aspect. Then we go to the consumption side. This is where we wear the clothes, where we care for it. This is where we should use it more. We actually use our clothes less. A classic example is that we go 50, 100 years back. Then we have two seasons. We have the summer season and the winter season. Now, depending on your fashion brand, you have 12 or 24 seasons per year to stay up to date and to stay within the trend. You have to keep on buying. On the afterlife phase, this is the recycling. A lot of it goes to incineration, but even more goes to landfill, meaning just big piles of clothes and other things just lying there. Some of it going into the soil, some going into the water, and the rest just lying there. This is something that we recently also talked about, and how can we generate these cycles? How can we think of waste as a resource and so forth? So we're also talking on a societal scale, talking about this space. So this has to do with fast fashion. We're not talking a lot about the consumption and how long we should use our clothes. We're talking about the production and the afterlife, maybe in our CSR reports, and putting some fine graphics and some nice words about this. But still, we are in major trouble in the textile industry. My point with this is that we have to remember the whole cycle. So when you look at fashion brands, it could be in the textile industry, but I'm sure also in other sectors this will be relevant. Looking at only the production and maybe the afterlife is definitely not enough. You have to look at the whole life cycle of a product to evaluate its impact, and it makes sense to talk about what is the impact per time I use it, rather than what is the impact for when I produce this product. But I'll come back to that. Going into the business models, we have identified these 5 overall categories of business models that are pushing towards more circularity. The first one is transparency. This is not actually pushing in itself towards the more sustainability or lower impact, but the act of opening up also allows people to look at all the things that you're doing, and thereby motivating you to do things better. There are different ways to do that, but opening up, doing transparency is essential for allowing NGOs in, allowing these watchdogs, but also allowing consumers to see what is happening. Obviously, to be able to show what you're doing, you have to know what you're doing, and this is also a major concern here in the textile industry, that the supply chains are very long, very complex. So many brands are not fully aware of where the origin of their products. So transparency is super important. The next one is resource efficiency. This makes a lot of sense. You do the same as you usually do, but you do it with less resources. Maybe you could use less water in the production of cotton. Maybe you could save some energy. Maybe you can save some of the material by doing other things. So resource efficiency, of course, also helps with lowering the impact. If we go a little bit further, we go to slow fashion. This is where we kind of address the middle section of the linear model. We talk about the consumption. We try to extend that phase to have the product used for a longer time and thereby having a lower environmental cost per use. So there are different strategies that I'll come into there. The next one is a service. So if you, instead of having a model where you sell a product and the consumer has to figure out what to do with it, you do a service where the product comes back to you as the producer. This incentivizes you as the producer to make long-lasting products and make ways to repair the product or care for the product in different ways, to make it more durable and to make it last longer in general. It also means that you get the product back, which also gives you the ability to do something better with the product, rather than the consumer has to figure out, where should I put this, or how should I recycle this? The producer actually gets all of the products back, and with that bulk of products, it's much easier to do something real with it. As well, it can be designed in a better way when you know that you're going to end up with it in the end. Then the last one is circularity. This is how can we create more and more loops on the use, and both the use of the final product, but also in the textile industry, that'll be on the fiber level, also on the material level, and how can you collaborate with different other industries and sectors to create these better loops. So that's kind of like the overview of the categories, and we have made different examples here on elements that kind of fit under these categories. If you want to know, that I'm not going to go into all of these today. So if you want to know more about each specific one and some examples there, you can buy our book. Yes, that's a commercial. You can buy a book, and then you can see all that. But today I'll start with going into no overproduction, which is a resource efficiency strategy. And what we can talk about here is Son of a Tailor, which is a brand. I also want to say that Son of a Tailor is doing many things, and all of these brands that I am going to mention are doing many different things in their business model. So these should be seen as different elements that you can kind of pick and put into your business model. So it's not to say that this is the only thing that Son of a Tailor does, but we feel that it's a good example that shows up. No overproduction. What Son of a Tailor is doing, instead of the ordinary way of doing it, where you try to calculate how much would I sell of this particular product, you assign it and you order it, and you get the amount of products that you think that you can sell. You sell as many as you can, and then it kind of slows down, and you put it on offer. You sell the rest on 40%, and then you have a little bit left over that you save or burn. What Son of a Tailor is doing is that they're doing on-demand production. This means that whenever a customer says, "I want this product," then they tailor-make this product for the customer. This means that they will never have an overproduction. They will never have products in their stock that they cannot sell because they sold it before they produced it, and they will never have to burn or get rid of the products or to sell it with a discount because it's already sold when they produce it. So this is this is really this is a game changer, but this is a really efficient strategy because we have so much overproduction. And when you look at the overproduction, just in Denmark, we have some numbers on that, but that's on how much gets burned, and we have some numbers on that, but that is not, you're not calculating how much clothes actually get sold on different sales where people actually don't need that clothes, which is also overproduction. So on-demand production is definitely a resource efficient way of producing to get rid of the waste. The next one I'm going to talk about is within the slow fashion is longevity. And here I have taken a company called Nudie Jeans. And the thing about Nudie Jeans is that they make really, really durable products. They make jeans, and they are so confident in their products and the quality of their product that you can get it repaired for free. So this means that it will obviously last a lot longer because you can get it repaired. It also means that from a business model perspective, when Nudie Jeans say that you can have free repairs, obviously the free repairs is an expense for Nudie Jeans, and they're interested in having to do as few free repairs for you as possible, which means that they're incentivized to make a longer lasting product in itself without needing to repair it. So that is basically the business model. They also like to try to extend the use of the product through just making a better quality. This obviously lowers the environmental cost per use. If you think about what is the price or what is the cost for me producing these jeans, divided by maybe half a year versus 2 years, obviously it goes down. And what we see when we look at the numbers is that the difference in materials, the difference in production, of course there's a difference between the better production and the not as great production. Of course there will be differences, but these differences are not as great as the difference you can get from longer use phase. So when you look at it in the sense of the whole life cycle, the durability and the use phase is really have a high potential. Right. So the next one I'm going to talk about is service. So renting and leasing models in the service category. And here we have also jeans. We have someone called Mud Jeans, and Mud Jeans have this business model where you can actually lease your jeans. So you can pay around 10 euros per month, and then you have like a subscription on your jeans. Again, this means that the more durable the jeans are, the more money Mud Jeans makes. This is because when the jeans are broken or it gets holes or whatever, you send them back into Mud Jeans and they repair it because it's their product still, and they send it back to you. So this means that the fewer times they can repair their jeans, the better the business it is. So the more durable, the more you are wearing your jeans, the better the business they get. Again, we're talking about the cost per use is going way down, and this is really interesting. Again, what I was talking about in the service, this also means that Mud Jeans has the possibility of getting their jeans back. There are different advantages with this. One is the one I talked about, that if you have to recycle them, then you have all of the jeans together and you know what's in the jeans, what chemicals are in the jeans. In the textile industry, you have a lot of different chemicals. You have like colorants, you have the different coatings, and you have chemicals to create fibers and so on. And these are all chemicals that have an influence on the recycling phase. So when you know all of these chemicals and what's in it, then it's much easier to recycle. It also means that if the jeans are okay and you don't need to recycle them, you can repair them and sell them again. So you can sell used jeans. And you can also make statistics on where is it that the jeans are actually breaking, which means that you in the next phase can make more durable products, which improves your business model. So this is a really powerful model that they have made, because they have the ability to constantly improve their production and improve their design based on the data or the jeans that they get back. So that's really powerful. Going further here, we're talking about circularity, and I'm going to talk about the circular symbiosis. And these are really interesting. These are the really interesting ones. This is the concept of, instead of trying to make jeans into new jeans, for example, taking in polyester jeans, shredding them up, melting them back to new polyester, and making new jeans out of them, which would be like a closed loop system. What you actually want with the circular symbiosis is to involve as many actors and as many different industries and sectors that you can, to actually see if you can have waste streams and side streams going in to be the main input of different other sectors. There are things going on here. It's not that we have seen like a full scale working model on this, but in Herning in Jutland, they are working on this, and they are trying to get different actors together. Maybe you can have, for example, leftover heat from one sector. You can have some leftover material from another that goes in as input to a third plant. But this is both a game of having many actors in the same place, so you don't have to transport everything around. It's also a game of creativity in like what kind of sectors can we involve and what can we tweak in the production of something that will make the output how we want it in another sector. So you cannot think in silos in this one. This is what is making it a little bit more difficult. But I'm going to show you one loop that is possible to make within these kind of symbioses. So one way of doing things could be that you have your t-shirt or your whatever clothing. It is going out in the world, and it ends up together with a lot of different other clothing. This is in this case, it could be a mixed cotton polyester t-shirt, but it lands in a big pile with jeans and with wool and with jackets and with all sorts of things. What we need is something in the top here. You see valve and baling systems, and what Valve can do is to sort textiles. So they have made this fiber sort machine that with infrared light are scanning all the clothes, and based on the reflection of the infrared light, they're sorting them. So that means that they can sort them into pure polyester, pure cotton, different mixed materials. Okay, so they are mixing. They are sorting these materials for like material-wise. So based on their composition, and then you get, maybe you have a pile that is a mix of cotton and polyester with a lot of different compositions. Like a lot of, you have like 30% cotton and 70% polyester. You have 50-50. You have different compositions there. Then it actually, I can see I swapped these. Then it actually goes to textile change. Textile change is a small company in Aarhus, and they are working on chemically taking apart the different types of fibers. That means that they can take nylon, polyester, elastane, and cotton, and they can divide those into 4 different categories. This is really crazy. This is something that is really hard to do, because all the fibers are kind of interlinked, and it's really hard to take them apart. Chemically, you can do that, And we have known ways of doing that for a while, but not without destroying at least one part. So that means that we have figured out ways to take out the polyester, but then you're destroying the cotton, or taking out the cotton, then you're destroying the polyester. But they have figured out ways to maintain or preserve all the materials, but still take them apart. This is really extraordinary. So this is still on pilot level, which means this is not a full scale plant that they have. But the concept is working, and yeah, their chemical compositions are working. So what they can do, we put our tons and tons of cotton polyester mix into the textile change plant. They divide it into polyester on the one side, and something that was cotton and now it's like cellulose on the other side. So the polyester we'll not talk about now. You could use that in different ways. But the what was cotton is going to Renewcell, and Renewcell is a company that can take either cellulose fibers or cotton. If you don't know, that cotton is based on cellulose, like wood is based on cellulose. So they can take different cellulosic fibers, for example, cotton, and they can put that into their chemical plant, and then they can make new fibers, or they can make pulp that you can make new fibers out of. So this means that you can actually use that cotton that was cotton, make it into cellulose, make it into new cellulosic fibers. So there you can make new garments out of that. But we have also seen these concepts where, for example, a potato factory that is washing the potatoes, and you have a lot of water with starch in it from the potatoes, and you can actually have bacteria eating that starch and pooping out something that is very similar to polyester, which is something that you could make into fibers. So that's also a link between the different sectors there. So just to show you that if you think creatively, and if you combine different actors with different technological skills, then you will be able to find ways to make these more circular symbioses. Although it's really hard, and it takes time and creativity, and you need all the actors to be in on it. Okay, so these were kind of like our main elements, or like our chosen elements. Now we're going to, of course, the barriers and the rest of society, because this is not happening in a vacuum. Of course, this happens in the rest of society. So what can we do actually to promote these business models, or to make it easier for the businesses to convert into those, or incentivize them to change? A lot of things are actually happening on the EU level right now. We have something like extended producer responsibility, which is making the producers responsible for taking their product back, and making them responsible for that also means that they have to take care of them afterwards, which means that they'll design it better in the first place. We also have sustainable product initiatives that is also promoting these more durable products and more repairable products. So that's also coming. And then the European Union also is launching a textile strategy that we are looking very forward to see what will contain. But this is to say that there is a lot of focus on how can we do this, and how can we, most importantly, how can we incentivize the businesses to go towards the better business models? How can we make it more profitable to do these business models that I just talked about, rather than the old fast fashion linear castaway business models? So yeah, and obviously, ideally, you would want to match the price of the product with the resource use. That's another talk, though. So on a political level, things are happening, and we should just push further to make this happen. But what about on a consumer level? We need consumers that are more resistant to greenwashing, and we need consumers that are more conscious and make better choices. So we have made this kind of impact guide for if you want your clothing consumption to have a lower impact. You start in the top. Do you want a lower impact from your clothing consumption? If you say no, you just end right at the bottom with the extremely large impact. So we assume that you say yes. So if you say yes, is there something you could use, something that you already have? If you do that, then you don't need to buy anything, and your impact will be really low. So this is great. This is great. This is again extending the lifespan on the things that you already have. But sometimes you kind of have to get some new things. So how can you do it? The best way is to buy secondhand. So if you do that, then you are buying things that already have made its impact. So you're actually again extending the life of your product without having produced more, so without signaling to the production that you need more product. Some people say, that's gross with the secondhand. It doesn't need to be that at all. There are so many different ways of buying secondhand, and so many different concepts that can be used. But let's say you cannot find it in the secondhand, then you go to the lower box. Is it a product with of high quality that you believe that you will use until it can't be used anymore? So these are two components, right? So is it a product of high quality that is made of good materials? But also, do you think that you'll use it? It doesn't matter if you buy a really durable product, but you don't like the color, for example, or that you like the color on Friday, but never again. Then it doesn't matter. So if you cannot find this, you end up with a very large impact. But this is to say, this is more important than the next one. The next one being, is it responsibly made with regards to people and the planet? Is this what will have like a green logo or recycle material or whatever? Then if you do yes, then you have a better impact than if you do no, of course. But this is to say that the durability and that you buy something of high quality is much, much more important than if you buy something that is organic cotton, for example, or a recycled materials. This is really important to remember. This is also free to download on our website, by the way, if you would want that. So we need consumers that are more conscious and more resistant to greenwashing and to that use this fabulous flowchart to guide their decisions. So just to recap, I'm almost done here. So businesses like business models are really crucial for creating a better industry and creating a lower impact. Longevity is the most important factor when you consider the whole supply chain. We need legislation that benefit ambitious companies, and we need to push for that, and we need to applaud when that happens. We need to get away from the fast fashion models. And lastly, we need conscious consumption. We need to buy less, and we need to buy better products. So this is the end of my formal presentation. So just if you want to be part of the revolution, if you want to know more, you can join our summer school. It's in Danish, but you can join if you speak Danish. This is if you are a young change maker that are interested in the textile industry and you want to make a change in that, and you want to learn from the most ambitious brands, if you want to learn from the researchers in the field, and if you want to learn from young entrepreneurs in this field, then I think the summer school is something for you. It's in Ungdomsøen, which is like an old bunker island. So it's a super cool environment, like a maze inside an island. It's going to be amazing. It's in the beginning of August. You can find more information on the Textile Revolution, the Tekstilrevolutionen.dk. You could also, if you want to know more about like the whole industry or business model, anything else, you can buy our book. I already did the commercial for that one, so I'll skip that pretty fast. You can also find more information on our website. And also just say follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. We're pretty active, and we are pushing out a lot of interesting materials and facts about the industry. So so thank you so much for listening to me. This was my presentation. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Markus, for that presentation. I would definitely recommend everybody listening to join the Ungdomsøen summer school with them. It seems like a small festival kind of thing. It sounds really nice. And also some interesting points. And I love all the examples, the specific examples that you can really, it helps to understand the complex and difficulties businesses, are gonna face when they do these go circular. I mean, yes, Jocelyne, are you ready?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
So, can everybody see you?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lynn. And thank you, Markus, for your brilliant presentation. I really enjoyed every bit of it. So unlike Markus, I'm going to be a little bit broad in my presentation. He was focused on the fashion industry, but I'm just going to be like tackling the business model as a whole and seeing how we can apply to various industries, not just the fashion industry. But I'll rather go very fast because I know time is against us. Okay, so the topic of our discussion this evening is about strategies for circular business model. So how can we shift from the traditional business model to a circular business model? That's going to be the focus of our conversation. Lee, next slide, please. Okay, so what is a business model? Everybody who has started a business have heard about what a business model is. And we know business model with their usual 8 components. It's all about how to make money out of your business while creating value. But here we want to consider 3 main aspects of the business model, which is value creation. How do you create your value? What is involved in creating your value? The various costs, the various resources, the various partners. How do you deliver your value? How do you communicate? How do you segment your market? How do you get the message out there about what you're doing? And how do you capture value? Meaning, how do you make money out of your business? So in a nutshell, that's what a business model is. So it's just a description of how your business makes money and an explanation of how you deliver value to your customer at an appropriate cost. So Lynn, can we move to the next slide? Okay, so before we talk about sustainable circular business model, it's important to talk about sustainable business model, because definitely circular business model is a subset of sustainable business model. So we go through a sustainable business model before landing on a circular business model. So what is a circular, a sustainable business model in itself? It's a business model that simply put has sustainability strategy at its core. So it is a model that takes into consideration not only the economic value of a business, but also the impact of a business on the environment, and also what social value is the business delivering. So in that sense, a sustainable business model is going to take into consideration how they use natural resources, how they protect biodiversity, how they treat waste and pollution, and how they avoid waste and pollution that is not creating it in the first place. And if it happens that it is created, how do they eliminate it? Maybe through recycling, regeneration, or other ecological services, such as soil fertility, pollination, climate regulation system. So all of these are at the core of a sustainability strategy within a sustainable business model. Next slide, Lynn. Okay, so how do we transition now from a business model to a sustainable business model and to a circular business model? So as you can see in the chart, you have your business model at the onset when you're creating your business. It is very flexible because as time goes on, you keep on improving on your business model. But then in the course of doing business, you realize that there is some sustainable value. There is also multi-stakeholder management. There is long-term perspective. So when you know your business is not only going to last for a year, you want to build a long-lasting business, you need to then we start thinking about sustainability, because sustainability is here to stay. And when you start thinking about sustainability, you start to think about what are the solutions that can make your business more sustainable. Then we have innovation, because innovation comes at the center of it. So when you succeed from moving from, when you take all that into consideration, you think about resource efficiency in your business model, then you begin to shift from a normal business model to a circular, to a sustainable business model. Then when you are in a sustainable business model, it's kind of broad and more open. Then you want to narrow it down to a circular business model to make sure your impact is well felt, and that you are not, as Markus said, just greenwashing as many other companies are doing out there. Then you want to do to make real impact on the field. You start to think about how to close resource loop, how to slow resource loop, and how to narrow resource loop. So it's all about resource efficiency on the onset, and making sure you source your resource from the right source. You make sure you use it, you reduce the quantity of resources you're using for maximum output, and also you make sure that the resource that you're using it to create long-lasting products and long-lasting services in general. Then Lynn, next slide, please. So now we are going to see some steps or some practical examples of circular business model in practice. So it's very important for us to know that all of this depends on the various industries in which we are, because not all the practices can be applied to all the industries that we are doing. But however, the good news is that all businesses, whether product focus or service focus, can actually embed circular economy and practice it. So the number one, I would like to mention that we have like 8 circular business model and practices. But here we're just going to focus on 4 of them because of time. And I decided to choose the 4 of them, given what is widely used and what has most impact in the most common industries that we have. So it's all about maximizing material and energy efficiency. You have to think about the low carbon manufacturing solution. So which solution in your business has a low carbon footprint? You need to think about lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing means using less resource to produce more. How do you use less resource to come up with more? That is less for more. Is the next slide, Lynn? Can we shift? Okay, thank you. So apart from, no, it's the previous one. The previous, yeah, thank you. So apart from lean manufacturing, and in a lean manufacturing, you maximize waste and you minimize production. That is, you do your best not to create waste and pollution on the onset, and then you do your best to maximize production as well. Then we have additive manufacturing, that is still called the 3D design. That is a transformative approach to industrial production that enables the creation of lighter, stronger part and system using data and computer-aided design. So, and we have dematerialization of product. For instance, when you have your product, how do you make sure the packaging that you're using for that product is the minimum packaging that you can have for the product? You're not creating excessive packaging, because most of the time, packaging is waste, because a client is not ready to pay for the packaging. So you need to make it very minimal so that it reduces the waste on the onset. And how you're increasing functionality, you increase functionality to reduce the number of products, for instance. So like creating a more efficient product to reduce other products. Like today, some people do not find it necessary to have maybe a camera, a photographic camera, because they have a good phone that can do that at the same time. So you have less product with more functionality. You increase functionality of product to make sure it reduces the number of product the clients or the consumers are going to need. Next slide, Lynn. So the second practice in circular business model is substitute with renewable and natural processes. Where possible, you should move from non-renewable to renewable sources. You should strive towards zero emission initiative. For instance, in the construction industry where I am, I promote the use of compressed earth bricks. Why? Because most of the time you have the earth just around the construction site, so you do not need to take it far, like sand, for instance, and travel a long distance with it. So in that way, you source maybe resource nearer to your production center, and you make sure you source resources that very low emission were produced during their production. We also have a blue economy. Blue economy is everything sustainable that has to do with ocean, with the protection of ocean, while improving livelihoods and creating jobs. So we have biomimicry. Biomimicry is applying nature-inspired design in human engineering and invention to solve human problems. So we have the most common one that we all know. The first flying device was inspired from a bird. So each time you can be inspired from nature to create to create design for humans that is going to be efficient, because we know nature itself is self-regulated. So nature do not produce waste. We are the one producing waste. So, and we also have green chemistry. Green chemistry is the design of product and processes that minimize or eliminate the use of the generation of hazardous substances. So I can go back to the fashion industry, like Markus was saying. Maybe, for instance, if you can use colorant, natural colorant in the fashion industry, they might be more expensive, but they will be more durable than maybe some chemical colorant that are going to have an impact not only during the production, but also during the usage of the textile by the consumer. By washing the textile, maybe the textile is going to release the colorant, and the colorant is the water will be a source of pollution. So it's important to also use green chemistry, so we can rather use natural colorant to replace chemical colorant. That is just an example among many others that you can apply in your business model. Next slide. Okay, so now we talk about deliver functionality rather than ownership. And Markus mentioned a very interesting example in fashion, service as product. So instead of maybe selling cloth, you can decide to either lease them or to put them on rent. And we can also use this in the case of cars, for instance. Not everybody should or is forced to own a car, but you can use shared services. You can rent a car when you really need one for yourself, and it is important that we have those services because they do not pressurize each and every person to own a car. So we can be product oriented. That is like when you're really manufacturing a product, you lay emphasis on the product, the maintenance and the extended warranty. Like in the case of electronic devices, like for now, France has just come up with some new policy to make sure all electronic devices that are produced in France have detailed specification on their duration, on their repairability, on the duration on their repairability. So there, it's going to be an incentive for users, not only an incentive for users, but it's going to be like an obligation for the producer to make sure they have extended warranty. Because if you're not transparent enough, your product won't be accepted on the market. So use-oriented, as we already said, rental, lease, and share instead of ownership. And the result-oriented, pay per use, for instance. So pay per use will rather prompt you to have sustainable products, because if your products are not sustainable and they can easily break down, you won't go into a pay per use model, because you know the life cycle of your business, of your product, is very short, and that business model is not going to help you. And also we have chemical management as a component of functionality rather than ownership. It's very important for those who are into chemical industry to make sure they have good processes in terms of chemical management. That too is a circular business model practice. Next slide, please, Lynn. Okay, so here we learn to the fourth and the very last one for today, creating value from waste. Yes. This is what many people think circular economy is just all about waste, but I believe circular economy in your business model, recycling is just the last option when we talk about circular economy. So how do you create value from waste? You have a circular economy closed loop. You have a cradle to cradle kind of business model. You have industrial symbiosis, just like Markus was saying. Industrial symbiosis might be a little bit difficult to apply in the fashion industry, but you can apply it very easily in the food industry, for instance, because there you have a lot of waste, and that waste can be used as a primary resource, maybe for an organic fertilizer company, for instance, that can take your waste for the food manufacturing company to use it as their input for organic fertilizer, for instance. Some can also transform the waste into an energy source, and some can also take the remains. For instance, I have a friend in Nigeria. She has a company. What she does is she does clean cook stove, sustainable clean cook stove. So she takes remains from these big companies, remains of metals from these big companies, and she uses the remains that is thrown out by the company to manufacture really nice, clean, and sustainable cooking stove that she sells. So that is also an example of industrial symbiosis, whereby the waste of an industry is the input of another industry. So we also have reuse, recycle, remanufacture. The take back management, for instance, is also a very good model to make sure we create value from waste. When your product, when you have, maybe you give the consumers the opportunity to bring back your product after a certain time of use, it guarantees the fact that you are the one responsible of the output they are bringing back to you. And most definitely, you are going to try to make a value out of the product they are bringing back, either by repairing it, either by refurbishing it, or either by recycling in case it is really out of use. So you use excess capacity, share assets, and collaboration consumption, and the extended producer responsibility, just like we were saying, to make sure each producer is responsible of their product after use. So that will help them to make to reduce waste while producing, and also to be responsible of the waste produced from their products. I think this is taking us to the end of our presentation, and I'm thanking you for your kind attention. I was Jocelyne Landry Tsonang from the African Circular Economy Network. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Jocelyne. It was an amazing presentation, definitely. We gave so much information. I still think we just have to kind of dive into it a little bit and maybe digest it, but thank you so much. It was amazing.
Yes, and I think we have some questions here.
So the first question I have for you, Markus, is what's the most efficient circular strategy that can be implemented in the textile industry? Upcycling, take-back systems?
Right. So we have tried to design our structure of the different models so that the more to the right you go, the more impactful they are. But obviously, it's not that simple. It also depends on how much do you engage with that model, right? So in general, you are having more reach the further to the right you go. That means like, for example, if you go from a more durable product towards a service, that will have a better impact because you extend your model with getting your product back. So that way, the more to the right you go, the better it is. Obviously, if you can go all the way to the circular symbiosis, then you can also impact other companies and other industries, right? Rather than just your own companies and the users of your service or the consumers of your product. But yeah, it depends on how much you engage in it. I would encourage people to do an analysis of the whole supply chain or the whole life cycle to evaluate it because it will be different from every product.
Yeah, nice. I hope it answered your question, whoever had it. Onward to the next one. How can we spot greenwashing in textile industry?
That's a really important question. Thank you for that, whoever sent that one in. So first of all, there is no sustainable clothing. So in the minute that you see something is labeling your clothing as sustainable, you know that's not true. If we talk about sustainability, as you talked about, Jocelyne, that it has to sustain itself, it has to carry itself, right? So it has to have. You can look at the product having zero impact on the environment, or you can look at the whole system. That's what we would like to do and say. We talk about sustainability as a description of a system, right? A system that is in balance. So you don't talk about a tree being sustainable or a fox being sustainable, right? You talk about the system being sustainable and the system being balanced. So what I mean by that is that if we talk about the climate, for example, the CO2 is not bad, but right now we have so much more CO2 in the atmosphere compared to where the system balance is. So therefore, it's bad to release more CO2. But CO2 in itself is not bad. We're breathing out CO2, exhaling CO2 out all the time. So my point with that is understand, like, the concept of sustainability gives you the ability, I guess, to say my clothing is not sustainable. So that's a way to spot greenwashing. Another way is to say like think about durability, think about extending the life of the product, right? So don't buy it just because it says organic cotton, or if it says recycled polyester, whatever it says. Think about what would the life cycle be of this product. Don't buy a product that says sustainable, use it one time and then throw it away, right? So I would say go through our flow chart to get, like, that's the rule of thumb in terms of your consumption. But other than that, ask the companies. I would say, like, if it says this is sustainable, ask what that means. Like, why is this sustainable? What is it that you're actually doing? What is it that you're not doing? What is the actual impact of on the world of this product, being a piece of textile or something else, right? Ask what impact it has, rather than asking how much did it save, for example, or why it's sustainable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was a long one.
Don't worry about it. I hope it answered your question as well, whoever had it. Onward to the next one. This one is for Jocelyne. The person asks, is it more difficult, more expensive for a startup to have a circular business model? If that's one of the reasons why a linear one is not popular. Sorry, that was
okay.
It was for Jocelyne. Is it more difficult, more expensive for a startup to have a circular business model? If so, is that the reason why it's not as popular as a linear one?
It is not most expensive, but it is most difficult. It is most difficult. That is why everybody is not doing it, because it requires some innovation. It requires some behavioral change, and not everybody is ready to go the hard way. Everybody wants to go the classic way or the easiest way. But I want to assure you, it's not most expensive. Most of the time, it cuts cost, but just that it requires you to be innovative and to be ready to be ready to convince your consumers that you're bringing an added value as to what they are already seeing on the market. So it just requires some hard work, but I'm not sure the cost is high to choose to go the circular way.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Can I chip in on that, because I totally agree with you, Jocelyne. I also want to chip in or add that at least in the textile industry, you have a lot of path dependencies. So we have created a lot of systems that are made for this very linear model. So tapping into that linear model can be less expensive, right? If you want to buy cotton, you already have the whole supply chain already there that you can tap into, which makes it easier, like in logistical terms. So yeah, path dependency definitely also has an impact, I think.
All right, thank you. And to whomever, I hope it answers your question. This one is also for Jocelyne. How can profit-run business model balance sales and earnings with product longevity if everything right now is relying on a planned obsolescence?
Can you take the question again, please?
Yeah, definitely. How can a profit-run business model balance sales and earnings with product longevity? If everything right now is relying on a planned obsolescence?
It's very important not only to think about the profit you're gaining today from your business, John. And what I would like to tell you, if you want to go into business, know that sustainability is here to stay, and that circularity is a very central tool as sustainability is concerned. So today, most investors are not only profit oriented, but are also sustainability oriented. And even with the breakout of COVID, they are becoming more and more conscious. If you go on the website of BlackRock, for instance, which is one of the leading investing company in the world, you're going to see a sustainability report on your website. And you're also going to see that they carry out a survey that disclosed that 54% of their investors were looking at sustainability as the first criteria in a business model in which they would like to invest. So you might not at the first run have the profit you're looking for, but think about profit, people, planet. And today you must think about those three. If you don't think about those three, then know that you have profit today, but I'm not very sure that your business is going to go through ages. So it's very important to be long-term focused rather than short-term focused when you're setting your business. The beginnings can be easy, but definitely if you apply sustainability, know that the future looks brighter for sustainable and circular business models. I don't know if that answers the question.
Can I also chip in on that one? I couldn't agree more. Just so like when you talk, especially in technological items, right? If you talk about your phone or your computer, you have a lot of this planned obsolescence that it breaks down on purpose, right? And that's because your business model is made so that the faster you can break the product, so that your customer comes back and buy a new product, the better your business is. That's why it's so interesting to turn that around and use a service model, right? So it actually for the business gains more profits from making longer lasting products rather than gaining profits for making shorter lasting products. So pushing those service models in, maybe through legislative approaches, I think that we should focus a lot on that.
All right. I think the time has run out, unfortunately, but both of you, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the presentations. It was so inspiring. It was so informative. We are so happy that you guys wanted to be part of our competition, be part of our preview, be part of our webinars. So thank you so much for it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.